Before we begin this meeting, we wish to pay respect to the First Nations, past and present, and acknowledge the important role First Nations people continue to play within our community. And with that opening, I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask for the approval of the agenda. There is no addendum today.
Mayor?
Changes to the agenda, Councillor Osborne?
Trying to put my hand up. Oh, there it is. Yeah, before we approve the agenda, I just had a comment. I had asked for an agenda item to be added for this meeting, although it was recommended by the clerk that I ask for it to be added to the next meeting, our first meeting in May, as instead. And what I wanted to have added at our first meeting in May is a council discussion on the pool wellness issue. And more specifically, I believe it's time that we did a consultation with our ratepayers, as some other municipalities have done. I won't get into that. That would be the body of the discussion. I did attend the April 8th meeting, as you recommended, Mayor, for the Wellness Committee. And I was rather astounded to hear that you were representing from Seguin Council that this project is essential when we haven't, as a council, determined that yet. And I think that gives even more rise to why we need to consult our ratepayers and get direction from them as to where they sit and where we should go from there. So if we could have the clerk schedule, I'm just looking for agreement that we have the clerk schedule that for the agenda on our first meeting in May. Thank you.
Just a comment. I know that our Chief Administrative Officer and the CAO of Parry Sound are working diligently to bring real new information back to council on the pool and wellness. And I would suggest that when we have that agenda item, we combine all of that discussion. I will remind you that this council has passed at least 2 motions endorsing the pool. So I would rather see it when we have real new information on the status of the pool.
Well, Mayor, okay, sorry.
I see Councillor Fellner has his hand up.
Yeah, I personally think that it's a little premature to discuss this until we have the new facts. I mean, we've already been through and voiced our disapproval with the motion that was proposed to us earlier and indicated what our concerns were. And without any new information, and as far as I'm concerned, we don't have any new information, I really see no benefit in getting into a roundtable discussion on the merits of it, because we don't know what it is yet. I have no problem with having our ratepayers have the opportunity to comment on it. I think that's a proper thing to do, but before we can ask for a comment, I think we got to have something real to show them. And my personal opinion is we don't have anything real at the moment. Not that I disagree with you, Rod, but I don't know really any more than what I, was pitched a couple of months ago. You know that I wasn't happy with that, and I still wouldn't be amenable to agreeing to it. And so I think it's prudent to give our CAO and the other CAOs of the region time to get their ducks in a row and come back with what they're suggesting, and then that's the proper time to discuss it and comment. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Councillor Osborne?
Okay, the purpose of my request is not for council to discuss the pros and cons of the Pool Wellness Committee. We've been given a presentation by the committee as of the April 8th meeting. The architect and the committee seem to insist that the pro forma that has been established will continue to be the pro forma. So the information hasn't changed substantially. I'm not requesting a debate as to the pros and cons of the pool or the information or that sort of thing. We have had a presentation presented to us we haven't been fully transparent with our ratepayers on that presentation. They need to have the ability to respond to what we have thus far, the presentation, and the attached resolution that was attached to go forward, which we delayed. And there's no harm in doing a survey, constructing a survey to our residents on this, because as I said, I'll say it again, April 8th, the pro forma has not changed. And on that basis, I think we need to conduct a survey to get started at it instead of kicking the can down the road, as we've done in the past so many times. Thank you. Anyway, it's up to council, Mayor, to decide whether or not they want to discuss a survey. Doesn't mean we're going to do it, but at least discuss it. Thank you.
Okay, well, we'll take your comments, and I'm going to ask the clerk and our CAO to come back with a recommendation. We may have more information, but your request has been duly noted.
No, my request is to add an agenda item for the first meeting in May, and I would like councillors' input on that request for discussion on a survey, when, where we do it, how we do it, those types of things, so that we're ready. Whether we do it right away is another story. I'm asking council for agreement that it's worthy of discussion the first meeting in May, not put it off for a report from the CAO or anyone else. That's my request. And you haven't responded to that, Mayor. Thank you.
Can I have a show of hands from council if you agree to put it on the agenda in May, first agenda in May, irregardless of any new information? All those in favor, please put your hand up. Okay, I have Councillor Osborne and Councillor Collins voting for, and sorry, Councillor Moffat, was your hand up or you have a comment?
I have a question.
Okay.
I just want to make sure the ask of Councillor Osborne is to discuss completing a survey at the May 8th agenda in advance of getting any new information. That's what we're being asked to, just to formulate what a survey may be, number of questions, potential, format, whatever. It's
based on the current pro forma.
Correct.
Yeah, based on what we have now, the pro forma.
No, that's not what you're asking us to do, Councillor Osborne. You're asking us to start to formulate a survey as to potential number of questions, potential format. It has nothing to do with the content of the pool.
I'm suggesting based on the presentation we received as a council, I'd like the survey based around that presentation, period. And it's a usage, it would become a usage survey. Don't put words into my mouth, Councillor Moffat. It would be a usage survey. Would you use it? Wouldn't you? How often? Etc. Those kinds of things. That's all.
Just to be clear.
Pretty simple.
This survey, the usage survey, the cost survey was completed by our community group. I can't name you the month. I think it was June or July. So we have done that survey and we have those results.
The Citizens Committee.
Now, the show of hands, we have that information, but right now I see Councillor Collins has a comment, but he had his hand up and you had your hand up, Councillor Osborne. In that case, it's 2 against 5 for bringing it up. We will be bringing new information to the council when we have new information available. Councillor Collins, you have a comment.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I was under the impression that we were just going to ask if council wants to put out a survey directly to our constituents if they're in agreement for having this pool wellness center or not. That's how I thought this was going to be asked. About getting into the technicalities of it, no. I just want to know. It's only our due diligence as council to ask our constituents if they want a regional recreational facility with a pool or not. I mean, Whitestone's done it, McKellar's done it. We have not yet to date done it. And that's all I was in agreement with, is not getting into the nuts and bolts of the whole thing, but just asking our constituents, the residents of Seguin, do they want one or not? It's a very simple ask.
Okay.
Before we go ahead, that's what I'm thinking that we should do prior to anything else, because we haven't done it yet.
We have done it as part of the regional, and we had a chair of the Seguin survey, and it was Mrs. Mahan. But I'm not saying that we can't do it again. But right now, we have two councillors voting for that discussion at the first May, and 5 voting against. So we will leave it at that, but I guarantee you there will be more discussion about the pool when we have more information. Councillor Osborne, last comment on this issue.
Last comment, Mayor. You referred to the Citizens Committee, is what it's called. That did the survey region-wide, 2,200 results out of the whole catchment area. I believe the response in Seguin was 300 to 400 people. That is, if you're considering that a survey, that is a very poor response from 5,000 taxpayers. And if you're reliant on that survey result, then we're on the wrong path here. I'm sorry. That's all I have to say. Do what you will. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Can I have an approval of today's agenda? All in favor? Thank you. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? None being heard, we will proceed. So I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adopt the minutes of the regular and closed session meetings of Council held on April 6, 2021 as circulated. Could I have, a motion by Councillor Moffat?
I so move, Mayor.
And a seconder from Councillor Coles?
Second that.
All in favor of approving the minutes? Thank you, and that is carried.
I'm just trying to get in from the,
Okay, so I have to read my,
so this one should be in my name.
okay. Welcome, I see, is it Jen's mayor?
Yes,
Is that
I'm here.
Ryan? Yeah, and looks like Ryan perhaps connecting to audio.
Oh, can you hear me?
I can hear Jen. Yeah, I'm going to read the resolution. That the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adjourn the regular meeting to hold a public meeting for the following matter. Zoning Bylaw Amendment Number R 2021-0003-H for Penny. Could I have a motion by Councillor Osborne?
So moved, Mayor.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Fellner.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Thank you. Council will now hold a public meeting for a proposed zoning bylaw amendment application. In accordance with the Planning Act, Council will consider all matters placed before it prior to passing a zoning bylaw. Anyone wishing to receive notice of the passing of a zoning bylaw amendment who has not submitted such a request in writing should provide their full name and address to the clerk. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of Council to the local planning appeal tribunal, and the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the local planning appeal tribunal unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. The purpose of zoning bylaw amendment application number R 2021-0003 for Penny is to realign the environmental protection zone to coincide with the fish habitat assessment that was prepared by Riverstone Environmental Solutions and the applicant's agent considered to its peer review. The applicant is proposing the construction of a 2-slip boat port. A boat port is not permitted in the EP zone. I now ask the clerk to state the method by which the notice of the meeting was provided and the dates on which that notice was provided.
Notice of the public meeting was provided by posting the property and by regular mail on March 30th, 2021. Notice was therefore considered to be provided in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act.
Has anyone registered to speak in favor of or in opposition to this application?
Jen's Mayor, agent for the applicant, and Ryan Allen of Landscape, agent for the applicant, have registered to speak to this application.
Has the township received any correspondence? Okay, no correspondence has been received?
No.
Okay, I will ask Jen and Ryan to speak to your application.
Thank you,
Sure,
Madam
Ryan.
Mayor.
You want to go first?
Oh.
Sure. I have a presentation that I would like to present to council, if you would indulge me to share my screen.
Sure.
I'm now sharing. I will introduce myself. My name is Ryan Allen. I'm a registered professional planner and senior planner with Planscape, which is a planning and consulting firm in Bracebridge, 104 Kimberly Ave, P1L 1Z8. And I'm here today to assist the owner, Janice Penny, and her spouse, Jens Mayer, with their proposed zoning bylaw amendment application. The mayor has succinctly described the purpose and intent of this application. So in my presentation, I will try not to reiterate information that has already been provided. The subject property is located at 81 Morgan Bay Road. And here's a location map that shows the location of the property. And on the subsequent map, we'll see a more detailed view of the property showing Morgan Bay and Sucker Bay, as well as the location of the subject property shown hatched with the white arrow. I'd like briefly to cover some of the planning framework that's associated with the official plan that's effective to this part of the township, and you'll be very familiar with many of these policies. Protection of the shoreline, wetlands, and fish habitat, ensuring development of waterfront properties does not result in negative impacts to development, ensuring natural shoreline landscapes dominate over human-made features, protect the natural features of the shoreline area and immediate shoreline, including fish habitat. The zoning bylaw will implement the visual impact of boathouses on adjacent lands and on the natural beauty of the shoreline. Fish habitat should be protected from incompatible development. Development of boathouses shall require the preparation of an environmental impact study to identify the appropriate locations for development. The environmental impact studies shall identify mitigation strategies to limit impacts on fish habitat. The specific proposal in front of you today is related to the construction of an 870 square foot boat port over an existing dock. The boat port is proposed to be constructed in an area that is presently zoned environmental protection EP. Docks are permitted to be located in the EP zoned area, but boathouses and boat ports are not. The boat port will comply with all of the requirements of the zoning bylaw: length, width, height, lot coverage, etc. Here is a rendering of the proposed boat port above the existing dock. And I'll note that that dock was constructed in 2020 and is existing today. Here's a site plan drawing showing the property. There's an existing one-story dwelling or cottage, a garage, a shed, as well as a 2-slip dock. And you'll see that there's a blue line that follows along the southerly lot line. This is a watercourse feature that outlets into Lake Rosso. And you'll see, based on the labels shown on this drawing, there is an existing area of EP that's proposed to be removed and a new EP zoning area added at the mouth or the inlet to this water course that enters Lake Rosso. Here's an enlarged area of the site plan that shows the water course and the existing and proposed zoning. The site characteristics are shown on the photos that I'd like to share. This is the dwelling viewed from the parking lot driveway. The site is elevated above the shoreline. This is the front of the dwelling looking from the dock. The wooden structure is a canoe rack or a kayak rack that is located on the dock. You can see the shoreline is in an excellent condition for its natural state. The shoreline buffer is intact. Here's a photo of the existing dock. The boat port is to be constructed over this dock. And a photo of the watercourse drainage feature that follows the southerly lot line of the property and outlets into Lake Rosso. And it's at the mouth of this drainage feature that the proposed EP zone is to be added. Riverstone Environmental Solutions completed a fish habitat assessment in 2020. The assessment confirmed the area below and surrounding the existing dock is general fish habitat and not significant fish habitat. The proposed amendment will remove the existing environmental protection zone from an area where significant fish habitat was not observed and will add the EP zoning to an area where significant fish habitat is expected. Example of the confluence of a lake and a watercourse. To minimize the potential for negative impacts to fish habitat in general, Riverstone recommends the following. Any in-water habitat features must be left in their current locations in the nearshore area unless permitted by the MNRF. Vegetation on land fronting the dock structure should remain in a natural state as currently exists, as shown in the photos. Any in-water work be required to strengthen the understructure of the dock must be completed outside of the sensitive timing windows that occur from March 15th to July 15th, which is the warm water spring spawning. As part of the process to deem the application complete, the township required a peer review to be completed of the Riverstone fish habitat assessment. Beacon Environmental was selected by the township to complete that peer review. Beacon agrees with Riverstone's conclusions that the proposed boat port development has minimal potential for negative impacts on fish habitat. Beacon states the overall conformity to applicable natural heritage policy has been well demonstrated, and Beacon concludes by supporting and the recommended mitigation measures to reduce the potential impact of development. The proposed lot coverage is 3.5% over the entire lot and 6.1% within 60 meters of the shoreline. The maximum coverage for this lot is 7.25%. The boat port will be constructed over an existing dock. No dock construction is required, no tree removal is required, and the vegetation buffer will remain unchanged. The boat port will be centrally located on the shoreline and exceeds the minimum setbacks. Again, no changes are proposed or required to the dock. In conclusion, I believe, in my professional opinion, that this application conforms to the township official plan, is consistent with the provincial policy statement, and represents good planning because the environmental protection zone will be applied to an area where it's been demonstrated significant fish habitat is present and removed from an area where it is not. A fish habitat impact assessment is supportive of the proposed zone changes, and the peer review agreed with the conclusion and recommendations of the assessment. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. We'll stop sharing my screen.
Thank you very much. Councillor Osborne, you have a question?
Yes, I do. Thank you. Our official plan or our zoning bylaws say that a boat port is not permitted in an EP zone. Does that mean any or all EP zones? Maybe our director of planning could answer that. Would that be for you, Candace, or for you, Jason?
Through you, your worship, to Councillor Osborne, a boat port is not permitted in an EP zone, and this is why the two environmental studies needed to be completed along with the peer review. That's correct.
Okay, so they're not permitted. So in our upcoming review, I guess we're going to change that rule then to allow boat ports in EP zones? Is that, have you had any direction from our OP committee to that way?
We have not gotten into that discussion yet, but it is on the list of
Okay.
things to be discussed.
Okay, second question for the consultant here, the planning consultant. This assessment was completed in January. I heard 20 from Ryan, but then on the report it says 21. Can you tell me which year it was?
And sorry, if there's a confusion about the date, I'd be happy to clarify through you, Your Worship. The report itself was completed January 2021. The actual work, the site assessment and the analysis was completed in 2020. The site visit was completed in July of 2020.
Oh, okay. So here we go again. We've had a number of these before us in the past where mankind is determining where the fish are and where the fish aren't, and whether it's type 1 or type 2. So we're being asked to give relief here to the, I suppose, what was registered as type 1 fish habitat and make it type 2, but we're going to establish a swap here for a fish habitat where the creek goes in over on the other side of the boathouse. To me, this is very, I guess, I feel it's manipulative. We're just making the situation fit. And I wonder when we're going to stop changing our EP zones and amending our bylaw to allow things that shouldn't be there. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Osborne. Any further comments from councillors or questions? Mr. Mayor, do you wish to speak?
Sure, thank you. I guess my only comment is when these EP zones were placed on maps, I'm not sure the detail with which they were registered on actual maps as opposed to just making a broad EP zone assessment. I mean, the whole purpose of the two studies that we completed were to do an assessment of where the EP zone should be located. And it's related to the small wash, which is an intermittent stream that only runs in the spring. So the purpose of the studies was to identify where this zone exists, and it doesn't exist anywhere near the dock. So we're not moving things around so much as identifying accurately where that zone is. And we're not touching anything near that. And further, the boat port that we're looking to build is everything is above the water line. So there is nothing going in the water. There's an existing dock that we're just putting the structure on top of. So it isn't so much as changing things as it is refining the location of where the actual EP zone exists.
Thank you very much. Councillor Osborne, you have one more comment?
Yes, I failed to ask the question, how do you do a study in January when the lake is frozen? And secondly,
Councillor Osborne, I'm just going to correct you there. The study was done in July 2020. The report was received in January 2021.
All right, thanks for correcting that. The report does not reflect July anywhere I could see it. Secondly,
there are two reports.
Mr. Mayor, when you mentioned about nothing's changed for the boat port over an existing dock, sunlight on the bed, on the lake bed is changed. That will affect the environment. Thank you. And when it comes to a vote, I would like a recorded vote once you're ready for that, Mayor.
Okay. We'll do that when we're in public meeting, correct?
Well,
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Mr. Mayor, and your consultant from Landscape, thank you. What we do now, just in process, we have no correspondence that's been received. We've done the council questions. Thank you. Council will now close the public meeting and reconvene to our regular meeting, and it's at this that motions become available. So I have a motion that the public meeting held for the following matters is hereby closed and the regular meeting is hereby reconvened. The meeting was being held for the zoning bylaw amendment number R 2021-0003-H for Penny. Could I have a motion from Councillor Collins?
I so move that motion, Mayor.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Finson.
I second that.
All in favor of moving back to the regular meeting? Thank you. Sorry, I'm going to get back to I'll read this. Okay. So I have a motion here that bylaw number 2021-030, being a bylaw to amend Township of Seguin zoning bylaw number 2006-125, property roll number 4903-001-002-26000, application number R 2021-0003-H for Penny at 81 Morgan Bay Road, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Moffat?
I so move, Mayor.
And seconded by Councillor Coles?
Second that.
Thank you. And Councillor Osborne asked for a recorded vote, so I will pass this back to the clerk. Oh, sorry, Councillor
No.
Fellner, you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. I guess it's for Candace. I'm just reading back, Mr. Councillor Osborne mentioned something that sort of trigged on me. So it actually states on page 26 that the construction or installation of in-water shoreline structures and facilities not be permitted in an environmental protection zone except where the structure meets the requirements of the Department of Fisheries and Oceans or the requirements of other authorities having jurisdiction. So I would assume that it meets the requirements of the Department of Fisheries and Oceans since there's already a dock there, correct? Would that be the correct assumption?
Through you, your worship, to Councillor Fellner. I'd have to defer to the expert, but yes, that would be my understanding as well.
Yeah, because we were, yeah, okay, that's fine. That's all I had to ask. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So the clerk will now call the vote.
Councillor Moffat,
Yay.
Councillor Fellner,
Okay,
Councillor Coles,
Yay.
Councillor Osborne,
Nay.
Councillor Finson,
Yay.
Councillor Collins,
Yay.
Mayor McDermott.
Yay. So that motion is carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Glenn?
much.
Thank
Thank you, Your
you.
Worship. Thank you, Council.
Thank you very much. Council will now consider the following Shore Road Allowance application. Shore Road Allowance application number RAF 2020-0018-F for Blues on Little Otter Lake, bylaw number 2021-022. Have there been any written objections received related to this application?
No written objections have been received.
Thank you. And so, right, okay. So that the first is that bylaw number 2021-022, being a bylaw to sell a portion of the original Shore Road Allowance, application number RAS-2020-0018-F for Plues, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Osborne
So moved.
and seconded by Councillor Fellner?
I'll second that, Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. And now we have the deeming bylaw number 2021-023, being a bylaw to deem Lot 1 of Plan 295 pursuant to Section 50, Bracket 4 of the Planning Act, not to be on a plan of subdivision, property roll number 4903-030-008-02004, file number D 2020-0010-F for Plews, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Collins?
I so move that motion, Mayor.
Thank you, and seconded by Councillor Simpson.
I second that.
All in favor? Oops, I'm sorry, Councillor Moffat has a question, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mayor.
Sorry.
It's okay. I raised this in the last, and I just want to put this on the to-do list. We have a blanket agreement with regards to the shore road allowance, and I'm wondering if we can put this on the agenda for the official plan review, is whether we should be looking at this on a more property by property basis as people may be interested in some green energy in that space, provided it, fits within let's say the balance of the official plan. I did have a conversation with Jason on this, and maybe we can put it onto the into the official plan committee review process, please.
You want to speak to it?
Thank you, Worship. Yes, Councillor Moffat and I did have a conversation, and I think it's appropriate and it's great timing that we are in the middle of an OP review, and we will certainly work it in. Actually, there's a report coming up shortly that speaks to some of the detailed investigation and digging that we want to do with respect to some of the issues, and I think this is a great opportunity to unpack this particular topic during that session, which is scheduled for later this summer.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing it to our attention. So we have a motion, the deeming bylaw in front of us. All those in favor? Thank you, and that's carried. Sorry. I have a motion that Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby receive the staff reports as presented on the agenda for the April 19th, 2021 meeting of Council. We have reports from both Developmental and Protective Services and from Public Works. Could I have a motion from Councillor Moffat?
I so move, Mayor.
Seconded by Councillor Cole.
I'll second that.
All in favor of receiving the staff reports? Thank you. Okay, so the first one is a motion that Council of the Corporation of Township of Seguin does hereby grant an exemption for 33 Bruce's Trail, property roll number 4903-030-04300-0000 for bond dragger pursuant to section 5.1 of bylaw number 2008-0104, being a bylaw to prohibit or regulate blasting in areas of the Township of Seguin, subject to the conditions as outlined in the staff report number DPS BL 2021-001, copy attached as Schedule A to this resolution. Could I have a motion from Councillor Osborne?
So moved, Mayor.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Fellner.
I'll second that, Mayor.
And Patrick, can you speak to this a little bit and tell us what this is about? I think you're on mute, Patrick. You need to put your microphone on.
I'm a rookie at this stuff.
Okay.
Mr. Bondrager called the township and asked if he needed to have a blasting exemption. I told him that he did, and he was fine with that. He was able to supply me with all the documents that we needed, it's what it is he needed 3 feet for his crawl space. And when he started excavating, he found a large portion of rock that needed to be removed for him to be able to have that 3-foot crawl space for his mechanical work and all of his services underneath his cottage. It is in the same footprint that was as the previous cottage as well. So the size of the view from the lake or the size of the area of impact in the shoreline area does not change. It just is going to be a little deeper under the cottage than previously.
Thank you. Does council have any questions for Patrick Shoebottom? No? And I don't, as I read it, this isn't going to be seen from the lake at all.
No, you won't even be able to tell whether he's able to put a 1-foot excavation or a 3-foot excavation there. You won't see it from the water at all.
Thank you. So we have a motion on the table. All those in favor of the exemption? Thank you. Thank you, Patrick, and that is carried.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. So we have a motion that as per staff report number DPS-PL-2021-33, copy of this resolution as Schedule A, the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby approve an additional $34,000 to complete the official plan review, the expense to be funded from the official plan reserve, and that Council approves the revised official plan review schedule, which was in your package. Could I have a motion from Councillor Collins
I so move that motion, Mayor. Thank you.
and seconded by Councillor Pinson?
I second that.
Thank you. And before we go into this, I'm going to ask our Chief Administrative Officer to speak to this.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think the report lays out some of the detailed work that Skelton Brumwell Associates and the steering committee are looking to undertake and the associated costs. Revised schedule still sees us with early adoption early next year. And with that, Your Worship, I'm happy to answer any questions council may have.
Councillor Osborne, question.
Thank you, Mayor. Jason, did we anticipate the additional 34,000 at some point since they were contracted, or is this somewhat of a surprise, or is there a reason for the increase? A couple of questions in there for you.
Thank you, Councillor Osborne. Through Your Worship, we did not anticipate at the time of award an additional cost. However, the steering committee and council has made some recommendations on some further exploration into the key themes that are identified in the staff report: economic development, I want to make sure I get them right, livability and healthy community, the natural heritage and healthy lakes, and servicing. And in order to undertake that work, there is additional time and resources required, and that's why you see the request in front of you this evening for an additional $34,000 to complete that work.
All right, thank you.
And I will remind you that amongst the bids for the official plan review, Skelton Brumwell was significantly lower than any of the others.
Well, Mayor, could I just comment? I think Jason just mentioned the reasons. We expanded the scope of this review and therefore the additional money, or was this a request based on no differences from the original bid?
I think to a certain extent there was a lack of understanding of the depth of public consultation and roundtable discussion that the steering committee was looking for. And so we're pushing back and asking for that. Councillor Simpson and Councillor Moffat are on the steering committee. They may want to comment. Councillor Moffat?
I would agree, Mayor, but I think we've also expanded the scope a little bit. Some of it, these items weren't necessarily brought to anyone's attention when we awarded the contract, and they certainly, in the discussions we've had with the steering committee, have become, let's call them hot topics or whatever, and people are looking for something robust in the official plan in order that we get it right. So we need to do a little bit more homework and move it forward correctly. Thank you.
Councillor Finson?
I would agree with Councillor Moffat that we're asking for a lot, and I think that it was expanded, maybe not intentionally, but we're expecting more than we got, and I think this is not very much of an increase considering what we're going to get from it by the looks of it. That's all.
Chief Administrative Officer, go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. It's strange to raise my hand when you're across the hall, across the room from me, but you know, I think the key here is that we have expectations. Our community has expectations around a very high quality official plan review, and in order to undertake that work and deliver on the community expectations and frankly deliver on the steering committee's expectations, this is why this report is in front of you today.
Thank you. All in favor of the motion that's on the table? Thank you. Carried. We go now to the traffic report, which is there for your information, and I'd like to ask Tom McLeod to speak to that. It's pretty comprehensive what you have in front of you.
Thank you, Your Worship, and members of council. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty well laid out here. You guys hear me okay? I'm getting an echo on my end. So yeah, we've had some complaints about speeding on roads around the township. Most recently, which has been brought to light, is Sandy Plains, the road going towards Sandy Plains Variety, which has the LCBO there. So that obviously raises some issues that people are speeding there. I don't know, Friday afternoons, maybe, I'm not sure. So in the report itself, there's quite extensive data that supports some pretty eye-opening numbers here. And believe it or not, the Sandy Plains actually wasn't one of the higher ones. It's actually a few other roads: Horseshoe Lake Road, James Bay Junction, Highway 141 at the Jim Swift coming down the hill. So all these numbers have been presented to the OPP. They all have, I know on the Highway 141, they have conducted some traffic monitoring there and some enforcement. And moving forward on that, we do have a plan for the summer, 2-week blitz, where all the roads at the same time, approximately 20 roads, will have traffic data all at the same time. Because right now we have one in the spring, a couple in the spring, couple in the summer. So we don't have really great data at all our locations in the single time frame. So that's something that we're going to investigate sometime this summer, and it will be on a higher, long weekend. Yeah, any questions?
Yes, we do have quite a few questions. So first, Councillor Moffat.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Tom. Tom and I had an opportunity to speak this afternoon on this because I received more complaints about Horseshoe Lake Road in the last week. And I guess to me, this is a first start to what we've talked about when we originally got our speed spies. I asked about what is the plan. Now we're starting to, kind of develop it. But I'd like to maybe expand out this plan to such that we could demonstrate to our residents. We may have a checklist, that includes, number of complaints, sort of where the data is going, what follow-up the OPP is doing, just to be able to demonstrate that we have taken this issue and we're actually, going through, and whether that checklist is on location of equipment, how do we decide on that? I'd like to see something a little bit more fulsome outside of a set of data with, some, shorter term plans, but into more of a policy document or some sort of planning document that we can, hold up and say, this is how we are addressing our speeding issue in the township. So hopefully that's something that can be taken back through Tom and Peter to be able to bring that forward. Thank you.
I think your comments have been registered, and as we collect the data, we'll be in a better position to do a policy statement. Councillor Fellner is next.
Thank you, Mayor. Tom, good report.
Thank you.
But in my mind, we've been discussing this for quite some time. And we have some obvious areas that habitually are problem areas. And the one in particular is the hill in Rossum. We know the problems there. It's a continual problem. It's been around for a long time, as I can personally attest 30 years ago, where you just forget where you are coming down the hill. And is it not time to put, in my mind, I think it's time that we put a permanent solar device, whatever you call those there, such, like the one that's on the road coming in from Huntsville. And then, perhaps monitor that and see what kind of effect it's having to calm traffic in that area. We know, for example, that one's an issue. It's always been it. And to me, just to have data in a report is doing nothing, in my mind. So I don't know what everybody else feels about that, but I think we need to put at least one in and see how it goes.
Okay, let's take all of the councillor comments and then perhaps we'll talk about it from a budget.
Sorry, I'm having connectivity issues.
Oh, can you hear us, Tom?
Barely. I'm not sure what's going on.
Okay.
Zoom.
Okay,
I hear you now.
It'll certainly be minuted, but Councillor Fellner is suggesting that the issue in Rosso at the bottom of the hill is a long-standing issue and might need more permanent comments. I have a question from Councillor Vincent next.
Okay.
My comments are similar to Daryl's. I just wanted to say that I'm okay with collecting data all through the summer because I believe, I agree with you, Tom, that you kind of need a full year's worth of, summer and fall worth of data to do anything, to know where your problems are. But what I would like to just say is what I understand from what Peter said last time and from what you've said, Tom, I just want to know if my understanding is right, that once you collect the data, and we do realize that we've got a problem coming into Rosso, going down the hill on Horseshoe Lake Road, then will we be investigating safety measures and what we will do to correct those issues? That's I think it should be a part of the official plan, and it should be a part of, we should be trying to make our township safe. So once we get the data, we realize it's not safe to go on this road, then we're going to try to find a solution. Is that that's the end game, right? That's what we hope. Yeah, that's. I just wanted to clarify that's from everything I've read. That's what we're trying to achieve. Once we collect it all, we're going to make these places safe for people. That's what I've been. I've had a lot of calls, and I get a lot of calls every day about. I've got calls about plowing the snow again. So. But a lot of calls about the traffic. So I did let people know that we are working on it, that you guys are working on it, and that you're collecting data, and that we're going to, discuss what we find and try to find solutions, right? So that's what we're all about, is try to find solutions. And I just wanted to clarify that that's what we're doing here, and that's why we're collecting for a full 2 seasons or whatever the seasons are. That's yes. Yeah.
That's it, yes.
That's correct. And we will be starting a process with the MTO to be able to, or get a permit to be able to put those signs on near Jim Swift, but it doesn't really match their policy. They have different locations, so it's a little bit of work, and the MTO has been very difficult to deal with up to this point. So, but again, we need the data in order to formulate a plan, and then we can recommend and purchase. We'll put it in the budget for next year. We have as many as the radars as we determine are necessary, and then we'll carry on.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Pete.
Thank you, Mayor. Peter, before I get into the report, I do recall you mentioning last meeting, or at the last time discussed, that you didn't feel the speeds were all that bad in most locations that we've been tracking. Is that still true or not? Because this report kind of indicates otherwise.
No, in some of the locations, what I said the last time was in some of the locations where people thought there was excessive speed, there really wasn't.
Okay,
In other cases, there is, but for example, if you look at the Sandy Plains Road, with or without the radar on or off, the speeds are not excessive. Yet the claim is that they are. So
okay. Good,
it's
good.
perception.
All right, good. Now, it mentions here stealth versus live. Can you explain what that means? Stealth versus live?
You want to do that, Tom?
Sure. So the live is obviously when the number
there.
flashes at you, right? And it collects data, which you see in the report here. Also, when it's in stealth mode, that number does not show up anymore. And it's still collecting data.
It looks like it's dead.
Does not show up
like
to the
it's not
driver.
working.
Yeah. So it looks like it's, dead. Correct. But it's still collecting data. So it's perceived to say, okay, is it actually working when it's on and it's displaying to the driver? Or in this case, which we've seen in two locations, there hasn't been much of a change.
Okay. And as well, Tom, I see here financial impacts, $4,000 for 20 data sets. Is that tubes on the road? Are we talking here or what? 20 sets?
Yes,
20
that's
pairs
correct.
of tubes?
Yes, that's correct. And the $4,000, in my opinion, is a great price.
All right. And that would be a 2-week blitz this year, right?
Correct.
That they would be used. What happens to them after? We just put them in storage?
We
Are we
collect the
buying
data. No, we are collecting the data. We have a consultant coming in or a traffic expert coming in to deploying all of these tube counters.
Okay, so it's a contractor that will put these in. Okay.
And they'll give us the data.
Well, we continue with our radar and we move it around according to the schedule that we've put here.
Correct. Now, I recall in a past meeting, I had asked that we consider purchasing more units, in fact, fixed units, as opposed to the portable. I don't think that has gone anywhere. At least it's not mentioned in this report, the intent to purchase any more of the actual radar units. Is that true, Tom? We're not doing that at this point?
I'll throw that one over to my to Peter there.
Well, we're collecting the data and we're putting together, we will put together a proposal which will come to council. It's not in this budget this year. And so if council wishes and if we find that we want to put some in this year, then we'll have to come to council and council will have to approve that.
All right. And my final comment is that this study would be done over the busy periods in the summer, right? We'll have the results by September. Is there any need to wait till 2022 to actually take action and do something? Or can we not, after the results of this blitz, et cetera, takes place, can we not come back and make a decision in the fall?
We can put together all of the data and all of the observations, and then we can present that to council, and council can make the decision if we want to purchase some more.
Okay, but because I keep hearing we'll look at it next year, like meaning 22.
No.
I don't think there's any need to go. Wasn't there a comment made about that? Waiting till next year to actually collect until next year and then do something? I'm trying to get timeline here as to action, because there's obvious spots we need action right now that we know of, but there could be more.
Correct, but we're also the sites that are basically of concern right now we've directed the OPP to those sites, and with the timing of when the excessive speeds, according to statistically when that was, and so there should be some more patrols there. Otherwise, we don't have.
Yes. Sorry, hopefully we're not directing the OPP because that will incur calls for service. Let them make the decision, please.
Tom, you have a comment, and then Councillor Moffat has a comment, and then Jason would like to speak. Tom, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you, Councillor Osborne. I think we need to build some sort of foundation as well on what exactly warrants these to be actually placed out as well, right? So if we have a report, traffic calming report or something in terms of how, basically what warrants it, maybe that's our first step and we can start working on that. Peter, would you agree on that? And then we'll get all our stuff in the meantime in terms of data and you know, hotspot areas.
We've already had a number of reports that deal with traffic calming, and we've presented them to council. And one of the last one was basically with the radar, and we've tried it, and it is somewhat effective. And we have other areas in the township right now where we need to see what the magnitude of the problem is in the blitz in the summer. And from there, we will put together a strategy and we'll present it to council. And if more radars are required, and if council wants to approve more radars, then we'll put them in.
Thank you. Councillor Moffat.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to go, Peter, you mentioned one of the critical things I was thinking about in the discussion. We hand over the data to the OPP. Do we actually get something back from the OPP telling us that, hey, we went to, you know, James Bay Junction and we did, you know, a number of stops, and we ticketed 40 people in a 3-week basis? Do they actually provide us with any feedback, or we're just kind of lost in the loop?
I haven't received anything from the OPP at this time. Tom, have you?
After the discussion with Councillor Moffat today, I did reach out to Jeremy and got his feedback on Horseshoe Lake Road. And he said that it's just an unsafe area to patrol because all the hills and the bends and turns on it. So I understood that. We did have a chat, but he's going to do a reach out to his analyst and see what has been gathered on Horseshoe Lake Road since our discussion with him. So that's really the only thing I've heard.
Thank you. It would be good to know if there, you know, it's great that we're doing as much as we can, and it would be really good to know that, you know, because we can only hand over, like, we can make sure there's the right signs, we can make sure the vegetation is cleared, you know, there's good sight lines, whatever. But ultimately, the OPP is going to be the one that'll, you know, put down the hammer. So it would be good if we can, because again, going back to the residents and saying, look, we provided the information and this is what we got back from the OPP. They spent 3.5 weeks there and they ticketed no one. You know, so we've moved on from that location, but at least we have something that says that, you know, we've done everything we could do, and the OPP has done everything. And, you know, as part of our plan going forward, this is one item that I think that we should be including. But, you know, whether we move on or whether this continues to look for other methods to fix it.
We'll continue to talk to the OPP and hear back from what his analyst says, and we'll discuss that further with him.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to ask Jason to speak to this a little bit, but I appreciate everybody's comments.
Thank you, Worship. I did want to close the loop on a question I think Councillor Osborne had that I don't know if we really were clear. So, you know, I think Councillor Osborne, for timing purposes and when you can expect action, what I think we are saying in this report and what your staff and Public Works are suggesting is that we're going to spend the summer months collecting data, and we'll come back to council in the fall with a plan on how we intend on moving forward. So to your point, we don't have to wait until 2022. We'll be back in the fall. I don't have a defined date yet, but we will be back in the fall. And I will raise for council's awareness that while the speed spies are a great deterrent for speeding, they're not always the be-all, end-all answer. They're not the one solution fits everything. There are many different strategies, geometric design, lane narrowing. There are a variety of different ways to slow vehicles. And as we collect the data and engage with folks like the OPP and we learn more as we work through this process, we will likely be able to come back with some various recommendations that may see the addition of speed spies. They may see us doing line painting in specific areas that, narrow the lanes. They may see a variety of different options on how best to calm traffic in problem areas. So I think, you know, we look forward to bringing that report back to council in the fall once we've undertaken this data set collection.
Thank you. Final comment from Councillor Fenton.
I just wanted to say that that's exactly what my question was. Are we going to try to find safety solutions, not just putting permanent speed signs up? And Jason answered my question because I learned that when I was at Good Roads with Tom and Peter, that there are lots of solutions. And my son is a land developer in Ottawa, and he's been saying since I got this job that traffic calming and painting the roads is a really, really good option. They do it in every one of their developments. They paint they paint the roads and before they build them. They do all their traffic calming before they build their developments now. He actually said he would engineer it for me. He's an engineer. He said he would do the engineering if we went that way for me, or find somebody to do the engineering for me. But anyway, it's just, I'm happy. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you. Makes me happy that there's other.
Thank you, Tom and Peter, for a very comprehensive report, and I look forward to more data, particularly in the summer, and safety is our goal, so we're all in agreement on that. Okay, you have, for information, the Muskoka Watershed schedule of webinars. That's for your information and your signing up. It's entirely up to you, but they are usually very, very informative webinars that the Watershed Council hosts. So I encourage you to at least do some of them. So we move on to council reports, and I think you went first last time, Gail. So Daryl, over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to go back to that Muskoka Watershed, I've scheduled myself for this week. We'll see if I'll be able to accommodate that webinar. So in terms of activity over the obviously we're now into a 2-week period as opposed to a month, so not as many things going on. But on April 8th, we had our Integrated Community Energy and Climate Action Plans annual meeting with, I'm going to say there was around 20 to 25. Dominique attended with me. We had representatives from the area, partners, as well as other organizations. It was some business that we attended to, the normal minutes and such. We talked about our work plans. And then we had a bit of a free-for-all in terms of information sharing amongst the group. And one of the interesting things that came out of that, and Dominique and I have been back and forth on it, was the Township of Georgian Bay actually applied through the COVID expenditures through the province to be able to purchase electric vehicles and charging stations as a result of, having staff on the road in single vehicles as opposed to combustible engines. They were able to convince and have that, earmarked through that fund. So I've asked Dominique to, speak to the Township of Georgian Bay individual to see if there's an opportunity. Maybe we can, probably not get a car, but maybe there's some opportunities for some charging stations as a result of this or something. So that'll be it'll be interesting to see what Dominique comes out of that discussion. Also attended the Wellness Center meeting on April 8th. I don't think it was well attended though. I don't know if you guys had the stats. I had to take my dog out for a walk, so I stopped and came back, but I think, I only saw about 20 to 5 or 30 people kind of in that, and I was a little disappointed in the quantity of, or lack of quantity of people attending. So that's a couple of other webinars that I've been on, but for the most part, I'm just grinding through tax returns. So that's my report. Thank you.
Councillor Coles.
Yeah, it's been continues to be a busy time, particularly with the Belvedere file, and attended 6 meetings since our last council meeting on the Belvedere file, every single day, and we are making progress. Just because this is public now, the point of the exercise is to provide the best possible long-term care and health care for the residents of our community. That's the objective that we have in front of us, and it will all unfold in the very near future. We have a lot of players involved. We've hired consultants to work with us. We're meeting with ministries, and things are moving. I was unfortunately unable to attend our Chamber of Commerce meeting, which was last week, due to some personal commitments. But I'm excited about the direction they've taken, and you saw them. They were here at our last meeting. They are an energetic, positive group of people that are making things different in our area. That's it.
Councillor Coles, I'd like to say thank you for all the time you're putting into the Belvedere file. I've heard from some of the other people that I think are on your meetings, and they are commenting on how overwhelming some of the decisions are. So thank you for all the time you're putting into it.
I should just add that we are getting a letter of support from the DSAP group, because they will be part of the rollout at some point, as well as the Westbury Sun Health Center. So we'll be coming to the municipalities in the next month or so, asking for, in a formal way. So.
Thank you. Councillor Fellner, you've been busy too.
Thank you, Mayor. Since the last meeting, I had a Committee of Adjustment meeting. It was fairly active one. I think there was 6 applications, most of them fairly straightforward, and were approved. One didn't. I also had a library board meeting, and based on the latest from the province, we've made some different arrangements for branches. Now we're to the point where we don't know when we could possibly open, which is making it very difficult. And Jason helped consult with us, which was appreciated, or they consulted with Stephanie, which was much appreciated. And as well, I've had a few meetings, executive meetings with the Park to Park executive, and we're and many thanks to Councillor Moffat. So we're making some real progress, I feel. I've had some conversations with our Director of Public Works. I've had our conversations with our CAO. I think we have a good short-term plan, strategy, and we're sort of addressing all the historic issues for governance. I think we have a good plan to deal with that, and I'm looking forward to better weather. That is all I have to report for now.
Thank you. And Councillor Osborne, my apologies. You should have come before Councillor Fellner because you're Ward 3. My apologies. So over to you.
Yeah, well, if another ward needs cover, Mayor, I'll handle it. So I attended the April 8th meeting for the Wellness Pool Committee as well. It was, as Councillor Moffat mentioned, it wasn't as well attended as I thought it would be, since I know he was on and Jason was on and I was on, so that kind of limited the numbers. I was somewhat disappointed that there hasn't been more decision making happening there, since that's their first meeting, I believe, since October. And there's a lot of things, as you know, yet to be determined. It's early stages. I was impressed with the presentation from Councillor Haskam of McKellar, who he brought forward their feelings on McKellar about looking at phase development, and they had some options. I don't think it got a full hearing, but I was impressed with Councillor Haskam's comments on looking at other alternatives. Anyway, we'll see what happens. Secondly, on Thursday, the 15th, I had a CPAC meeting. And an important thing that's come up out of CPAC is the Ministry of Solicitor General is looking at revising how committees, advisory committees, and boards are governed and structured within the province. And there is a deadline of June 1st for each CPAC committee to communicate with the Office of the Solicitor General and determine what, if any, changes we want. We were unanimous, except for two Indigenous reserves that weren't represented at the meeting. All 7 other municipalities were there. We were unanimous that the way CPAC is formulated and operates is good. We want to keep it that way. We feel we have an ear with the OPP. And it was, the consensus was, we want to stay the way we are. We need to communicate that to the Solicitor General's office. The problem is Jeremy McDonald, who is the chair of the CPAC meetings, can't comment. He didn't even want to be in the discussion because of conflict. So therefore, and we don't have a vice chair. So it's up to the members, all the council members on CPAC, to get together separate from Staff Sergeant McDonald and formulate a statement to the Solicitor General's office by June 1st. I've reached out to Bonnie Keith from Parry Sound, who's their committee member. We're going to put together a draft resolution and circulate, I guess, to our respective councils, because we feel that on something this important, we need to have the blessing of our respective councils. We just can't go ahead as members and do this on our own, communicate with the province. So we're going to try to do that draft this week and somehow get it circulated early in May or by our next meeting, a resolution as to where we stand for CPAC in West Parry Sound, and we have contact names and emails for Solicitor General representatives that are pertinent to this issue. And the problem all started because in some jurisdictions, there's more than one detachment overlap within a community, and there's 2 committees. In others, there's one municipality may be split over 2 detachments. So it's all over the map, and apparently there's confusion, and the committees in the southern parts of the province don't feel they're being listened to by their advisory committees, and that's why the shakeup. So we wish it wasn't happening here because we're fine. And we just have to transmit that to the province, and I'll bring that forward to council once we've got something put together. Thank you, that's it.
Okay, just on that, I received an invitation to an information webinar, and the clerk is going to attend about that on May 4th. So we'll have a little bit more information about that as well.
Yes.
And I have a lot of the contacts from.
That is not the first webinar that's. Okay, that is not the first webinar that's been held, and I'm aware of the fact Craig is going to that. This responsibility rests with the members of the committee to formulate and transmit, and we have to transmit it to key people at the ministry. And we have our direction from Staff Sergeant on it. So we know where we're going with it. We just have to get our council's approval of the resolution. That's all.
Thank you. Councillor Collins.
Yes.
Have a report?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Yes, I do. I did attend a DSAB meeting on the 8th remotely. I don't know if I said this the last time, but we did approve a proposal from the Housing Services Corporation to put together a 5-year strategic plan. And this strategic plan that DSAB is putting together now is the first time that they've had actually a strategic plan moving the yardsticks forward. So I'm very pleased with the new CAO forward thinking, running the corporation, the DSAB corporation. I've also received a number of calls about our short-term cottage rentals. And these calls that I'm receiving obviously are from residents in my ward that have received letters. And there was a lot of explanation that I had to give them, but other than the fact that the bottom line in those conversations was that we are now enforcing our bylaw. And I'm very optimistic that this strategy is actually working. And I have to admit that, you know, for the last 2 years, we've been trying to put something together pertaining to this short-term cottage rental issues. That's such a simple master plan to achieve our overall aim is actually working. And I have to admit that, and that's where I have to thank our CAO, Jason, for spearheading that, because it is working. And for the thousands and tens of thousands of dollars we've spent in the last couple of years with our in-house attorney, I'm just amazed that how such one-page letter is doing such a great job. That's all I have to say right now.
Thank you. I think we've all had lots of calls on short-term rentals, for and against, but it's been an interesting exercise. Councillor Vincent.
Well, surprisingly enough, I have not had those calls about short-term rentals in my area. I've had a few calls, but from lake associations just inquiring about the letter and saying, you know, what is our goal? And I, the same as you, Councillor Collins, I just told them that, you know, it's a bylaw that's always existed. We're just reminding people of it. And as you say, I don't know, I just haven't had those calls. I guess people are too busy calling me about traffic, but anyway, I've had quite a few calls, mostly good. People are really just mostly good. I probably talk too much on the phone, so not such a good thing. Anyway, I went to the DSAB meeting and they had a presentation on housing in all of the areas that are covered under DSAB, and it was a very comprehensive, very impressive presentation by Sharon Davis and Judy and Lisa. It was just really well done, and it was modern. The philosophy is a modern and innovative philosophy on housing. It was really well done. They talked about Esprit Place and how it's been carrying on with the same funding for 20 years. And during COVID, they've reduced from 10 to 5 people in Esprit, and Esprit is a shelter for women. Anyway, it was really well done, and Tammy, like Ted said, is doing a magnificent job. I'm just over the moon thrilled with Tammy McKenzie. She's doing, the CAO is doing a really, really great job, very forward thinking and innovative. And the strategic plan is coming along really well, and they're doing it themselves. Like it's quite incredible. In Rosso, someone called me about the sidewalks again, which I'll probably speak to Jason about in the next little while. I had my first telephone conversation with the West Perry Sound Museum representative, Rod Wood. I will be speaking, I got the agenda for this Thursday's meeting, and I will be speaking to him again on Wednesday. I'm really sorry, Anne, I didn't have tomorrow's meeting. I've been so involved in these clinics, and it wasn't on my calendar, and that's the only reason I booked that day. So I'm not sure what I did to not put that date on my calendar. They're really short of COVAX people that are trained for a certain thing in Sundridge. So I've been going to Sundridge every Tuesday to do the clinics for them, to register people at the clinics. Anyway, so I'm really sorry that I did that. And if there's anything that we can talk about before the meeting, I would be happy to. I'm also participating in the hospital's fundraising event, walking 5 kilometers a day for the whole month of May. And I put 5 kilometers was my goal. Now, I figured Daryl would laugh at me because I meant 5 kilometers a day, not 5 kilometers in total. I don't know how to fix it. I'll ask Brett if I can. But I've already reached my limit of donations. Anyway, so it's like, phew, I've walked my 5 kilometers. But anyway, I'm really excited to see if I can manage. You know, when I'm working, it's hard because I don't get home till late, and but I'll have to walk. It'll stay light till 9 o'clock, so I should be good. Anyway, that's all I have to report. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, and I will remind you that there, on the hospital fundraiser, there's no limit to your fundraising. You may have reached your goal, but you can keep going. There are posters up at the township now, and I know all of the counselors received my email about it, and I encourage you and your family to participate. It's a walk, unlike any other walk, because you can do it wherever you are. In any part of the world. We have a team walking now in London, England. So if you can, do your 5 kilometers, and you're also allowed to bank your extra kilometers for rainy days. So if you walk 10 kilometers one day, you're allowed to bank it for another day. So it should be fun. And there are several of our lake associations. I know Water Lake's got a team. I think Clear Lake's got a team. Lake Rosso North has a team. Like Joe is putting together a team, and we're all working hard against Point of Barrel, who last year raised $67,000. So they've had Gold Star many walks. Anyways, on the 8th, I attended the Wellness Center meeting, and it's interesting that you were commenting there weren't many people there. We'll put that question to Rebecca who chaired it from Perry Sound, because not everybody was on camera. They were asked not to be on camera if they weren't speakers. So I don't know if she had a number of people who signed in on the YouTube, not on the Zoom. I don't know. I'll try and find that out. April 13th was the Airport Commission meeting, and we're shut down again at the cafe, but the clearing and geotech for the new runway is on time and on budget, and it's made a huge difference to the view from the terminal. April 14th was a hospital foundation board meeting. April 15th was the second update from our health unit, Dr. Shiroko and his staff. We talked about everything from the people that got into the telephone loop being cut off after 10 minutes. They said they'd fix that. The people being referred now from our postal zones to Huntsville and Bracebridge, that's actively happening. And you may have noted that the province announced that as of tomorrow, anyone over 40 can get a vaccine, AstraZeneca, through the pharmacies. So as much as you can, please encourage everybody to get the shot. It will make a difference. And today is seedling handout at the township, at the libraries, and that kind of thing. So, and I believe tomorrow as well, there's a schedule on our website about where you can get your Bruce seedlings. I did see them last week. They're tiny, but they will grow. So if you can sign up for the walkathon, please do it. And Councillor Moffat, I see a hand up there.
Yeah, just to go back to the Wellness Center, we actually couldn't get on through Zoom. Rebecca sent out an email. It wouldn't link into Zoom, and she basically sent out an email that says you need to go to YouTube, and that's the numbers that I was referencing. So there could be many more, but that was we were directed to go to YouTube. So.
No, but I will ask the question.
Yeah, that would be good. Thank you.
And that's it for council reports. Do you have anything to report, Mr. CAO? No? Okay, I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby receive the correspondence as presented on the agenda for the April 19th, 2021 meeting of council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Osborne?
So moved, Mayor.
And seconded by Councillor Fellner?
I'll second that.
All in favor of receiving the correspondence? Thank you. Okay, let me just time here. I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby proceed to a closed meeting at 6 p.m. in order to address matters pertaining to litigation or potential litigation including matters before administrative tribunals affecting municipality or local. Getting some feedback from somebody. It's about litigation or potential litigation, including matters before the administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board. One is the appeal to the local planning appeal tribunal, read the minor variance application 2021-0007-H, and an update on short-term rentals. Could I have a motion from Councillor Collins?
I so move that motion, Mayor. Thank you.
By Councillor Vincent.
I second that.
All in favor of moving into closed? Thank you. And it takes us